and it is the beginning of July, which means I have another amazing guest on the first Friday of the month. I've been super consistent about this, and I'm very excited that today we get to have John Gucci Foley, to be extra clear. And he is just a total rock star, okay? He's not only part of the Standout Authority family, he lives his brand. I mean, when I think about somebody that really, you talk to them in person and the work that they do and who they are is exactly the same, John's it. So we're going to talk about his work and the idea of his glad to be here mindset. So if you're listening in right now, say what's up. Let us know where you're in from. Love to hear that, and get some questions ready so that we can answer during or after in the comments. Cool. So John Gucci Foley, who are you? And in this response, you have to explain where Gucci came from.
Yeah, awesome. Rachel, first off, thanks for having me. And thanks everybody who's on this. Wow, big question of the who are you? I'm going to surprise you a little bit because I'm not going to go to any kind of bio or any kind of that stuff. I like to say I'm an angel. And interesting question, right? When someone asks you, who are you? Now, the reason I say I'm an angel, not because I happen to be a ex-Blue Angel fighter pilot, right? That's not why I picked the word angel. It's because I was doing some research on wisdom. And it turns out angels have 5 qualities. An angel's a messenger. An angel gives guidance. An angel protects. An angel's a warrior. Above all else, an angel serves others. And Rachel, when I read that, I was like, hey, I don't know if that's the only 5, but I'm in, right? So I found a word that just gets me excited every morning. Every time I wake up, I say, who can I serve? How can I help? And that's my mission statement. Well, the mission statement goes, and I'm here to inspire others, to live life in all its fullness. So that's kind of what I like to do. Background, though, I came from a military family. I was born in Germany, lived all over the United States, wanted to fly jets. My dad took me to an air show when I was a 12-year-old boy. I looked up in the sky. I said, man, I want to do that. As we all know out there in the world, it doesn't just happen. A lot of obstacles. Ended up wanting to go to the Naval Academy, got rejected 3 times, eventually went. Didn't graduate number 1. Graduated in half of the class that allows the other half to be called the top. But I said, well, what the crap? I want to fly jets. And I started flying jets off aircraft carriers, flew in the movie Top Gun, ended up being a Blue Angel. And then about, I'd say 2 decades ago, Rachel, as you know the story, I had gone to Stanford Business School and worked in venture capital. And it hit me one day, high performance teams, how to turn them into business results. I'd been living that. Now, can I share that with others? And that's my passion now, how to become the Blue Angels of your industry.
I mean, do you see what I'm saying? How he lives this brand? You just feel the energy from John. I mean, first of all, what a great opener. Second of all, it's incredible work that you do. For people that don't know, in case they're across the globe, what a Blue Angel means, can you just give a quick tidbit on that? And I mean, you kind of breezed over the fact that you did, were in Top Gun flying, but can you just 1 second? So in case people don't know what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, you can see behind me, there's some football helmets. There's some jets on them. Those are fighter pilot helmets. We were called Fist of the Fleet. If you remember in the original movie, Top Gun, which is where I did those flying, that symbol that you see behind me, which is a fist grabbing a lightning bolt, was on Tom Cruise's airplane. And the ironic part was, here's an inside scoop for Hollywood, is that squadron symbol should not have been on an F-14, which Tom Cruise was flying. But they thought it was so cool as an F-18 squadron symbol that they moved it over there. Those are those licenses you can do in Hollywood. But now you got the inside story, right? But the Blue Angels are the flight demonstration team for the Navy and the U.S. basically. And what we do is we take the pilots, we pull them together, and we go out and we do air shows. And we actually call ourselves ambassadors of goodwill, which is very interesting. For a tour, you're out there to inspire greatness in another human being. I'll never forget, yeah, we fly jets at 1,000 miles per hour closure, coming within a wingspan. We fly 18 inches from each other at 600 miles per hour. We fly upside down over cities like Chicago and Washington. And I loved San Francisco and Seattle. I flew so low to the water. You probably see this on YouTube channels. You can see a wake from the jet wash coming off my jet. But that's not what our mission was. We just used these fancy jets to demonstrate high performance people coming together for a purpose higher than self. And I'll never forget it because our mission was going to the crowd line. And there's pictures of me holding little girls in my arm. And I'll never forget the look in those kids' eyes. And that's what inspires me, to see hopes and dreams in another human being. And then I turned out that, wow, there's a process to this. You can actually build high performance teams. There's a process to having a great company. But more importantly, there's the mindset, and it's all represented by these 4 words. Glad to be here.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. So John Foley is a renowned speaker. I mean, this guy speaks with all the major business executives and leaders across the globe and all the major companies. And you first talked about that high performance mindset, right? What you were able to really gain as part of the Blue Angels is a level of high performance unlike most people could ever really dream about being. But something you talk about is the glad to be here mindset actually being the ultimate mindset, even more than that high performance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about what is the glad to be here mindset? How did that get created for you? What does it mean?
Well, it's the ethos of a culture, right? And that's the culture I want, not only in my company, but I want in all companies in the world. And that's a culture where people feel appreciated, they're grateful, they enjoy, they're passionate about work. And I think there's the 3 Ps. You got to be passionate, you got to have a purpose, and that purpose larger than self, and you better be present. Okay, let me tell you, when you're flying a jet fighter, you got to be present. Well, guess what? So you and I. We need to be present every day, and so do the people listening to us who we're dealing with. But the glad to be here is that ethos. Now, where did it come from? It's this combination of operational excellence. So let's not forget that what I'm talking about here is not fluffy, okay? It's fun, it's joyful effort, but there's a process to it, and it's hard work, and it's good work. And that is this process of preparation, focus, execution. And then we have this thing we call a debrief process, which most people understand the concept of debrief. If you want, we can get into it a lot deeper, because we actually, it's the secret sauce. It's the tool we used on the Blue Angels for continuous improvement. It wasn't about a result. It's about a mindset of continuous improvement. So I don't care if you're starting with an organization and you got all kinds of challenges. You got people withholding. It's bad communication. We're in silos. That's fine, because we can build through that. Or you're, with most of the companies, a lot of companies I work with, I just got off with P&G. They're already with their best people, but they, 100 years, they want to know how they get to the next level. Mercedes-Benz, we just did a whole training with all the owners of Mercedes-Benz and their managers. Great company, the best or nothing is their logo. Well, how do the best get better is what we added, right? That's kind of the key. And it's fun. So it's a combination, quickly, of operational excellence with appreciation and gratitude. And when you combine those two, you get this ethos that really answers a lot of the challenges we have out there in the business world.
So, okay. Why? So these companies are hiring you because they're feeling what is the challenges that you're hearing so often, right? Is it, we're super operationally excellent, but man, people hate working here, or what are
they usually don't say hate, but they do have a challenge. We all do, okay? And that is, how do you get people? I call it the commit. Okay, I'll go back for a second here. You got to get people. The challenge is getting connected, right? Even why you and I are doing this, right? I mean, it's a challenging world, not only since COVID, but how do you get people to truly connect? Well, this is a great way, okay? You and I are showing this. We're sharing information, all right? And companies are having challenges that, but so we got to get people connected, aligned, Okay, so I mean, we're all on the same mission. I like to show a picture of me flying my Top Gun jets, and we're all lined up in a line, right? And we're all headed the same direction. So we know what our mission is. We're headed there. We're aligned. We're trained, but we're committed. And see, that's the third piece. There is, how do you take commitment to the next level? Now, in those jets, we were willing to give our life for the person next to us. And I joke around in my keynote speeches, I'm not asking anybody out there to give their life for the person next to them, right? But can you imagine if you were, right? And can you imagine, like, even in your own family, where most of us are willing to do that, right? If you can transfer that to just the way you operate in the world. So what I'm trying to do is just help clients accelerate to this high performance, and they can define it, right? So a lot of the challenges you mentioned, people were busy, right? Let me tell you, I just got off with the CEO, and he said, look, it's not that we're not busy. They happen to be splitting their company into two companies now. So there's a lot of fear, like, where am I going to go? Am I going to land a job? Who's going to be my new boss? These kinds of things. And there's M&As, there's mergers and acquisitions happening all the time. So we're about high performance teams. We're about, how do you get people to come together, commit, align, connect, and then actually take the results to the next level. And that's what I'm always looking at, is make it a better environment. And now let's go to the next level.
So how do you do that? I mean, is it different? Obviously, there's differences in every company, but you are working with so many companies, you're probably seeing some very common pain points, in areas to bring the team more together, to be connected, committed. Yeah. What are those bigger pieces that you're seeing, the challenges inside companies? And then what are some ways that you help improve?
Yeah, I love it. So it usually revolves around three things. And that is, they don't have the level of trust that they want amongst their individuals and with their clients. I mean, they all working on it, but it's not at that highest level, right? The same thing with teamwork. We all are operating in teams, but we're not, the communication could need work. The collaboration, we're in these verticals. I just got off again with another CEO, and he says, hey, I don't have salespeople. What I have is customer success people, because they got to own the whole process. If it's a logistic issue, you can't point your finger at your teammate and say, well, the only reason it didn't happen is because we didn't have the logistics. No, we got to work together, right? So everyone's trying to do this, right? It's not that we're not trying, all right? And we want to make it easier and fun. That's the glad to be here. This isn't about working harder, okay? It's about actually being smarter, right? So to answer your question, I think the first thing you need to do is paint the picture. And this is true for anybody who's listening, all right? Anyone who's running a company or in the company, it doesn't matter. You have to paint the picture of what excellence looks like. Paint the picture of where you're trying to go. So I use my Blue Angel experience, and it's pretty fun. Rachel, you know this. We got cool video, right? I can take you behind the scenes. You see the jets flying at 18 inches, and we're moving around. Now, from the ground, it doesn't look like it, but when you're in that cockpit, let me tell you, a lot's happening, just like in the business, right? A lot of things. Do we have clear communication? Absolutely. But do we have challenges? Yes, we have the same challenges. People say, well, it's life or death. That's why you're on your edge. No. I mean, it's life or death, yes, but this can be translated back. So it goes back to this, Rachel. We got to paint the picture of excellence and teamwork and trust and just what do we want to look like. To me, that's the Blue Angels, all right? I ask people all the time. In fact, hey, on the chat, do me a favor. When you think of the Blue Angels, what comes to mind? What's the first word? What is it, right? And I like to do this on my speeches anyhow, and it's really cool. We'll see what comes in on the chat, but you get words like precision, excellence, teamwork, trust. People will say, wow, that's awesome. Awe is, by the way, and I talk about how to inspire awe in your audience and your customers. You guys do that, by the way, at Standout Authorities. You create awe through LinkedIn, right? So that's what the team does. And then what I do is I break it down and I say, okay, so here's what we need to do. First thing we need to do is I call it the high performance zone. And that is the gap between where you are and where you're trying to go. All the leaders are doing this. Heck, this is really good for an individual. First get very clear on where you are. That's, by the way, self-assessment. That's awareness. This is looking inward. All right. Then, of course, paint the picture where you're trying to go, get very clear, and get the KPIs and all that kind of stuff. But I want a clear vision of what you're trying to do. And once you do that, and most leaders do this, and most companies already have this, there's a gap, right? And that's what we do. We close the gap faster than anything else I've ever seen. And that's actually working with over 1,500 organizations around the world, some of the best in Silicon Valley, some of the best sports teams. I worked at Alabama football. We won the national championship. I worked with the NFL. I worked with Penske Racing. We win the Indy 500. We just didn't win it. We took first, second, and fourth, right? And so there is a methodology. And what it just hit me one day, Rachel. I was watching a speaker speak about visualization, right? And this concept of, prepare with your mind. And he was talking about it from a psychological standpoint. And I said, wow, that makes sense. And he asked me to come on stage. I was never a speaker this time. And instead of talking about the psychology behind it, I said, this is how it works. This is how we did it. And here's how you can use it. And the light bulb went on. Wow, if we can share this. So I break down the excellence and teamwork of the Blue Angels and put it in a simple format that we can apply in every aspect of our lives. And
I mean, first of all, I love the piece that you hit on with creating clarity.
Yeah.
And
clarity in every aspect of your life, the vision, but also in execution, roles and responsibilities. But yeah, go back. Clarity is absolutely critical.
As now that I'm owning a business with Josh, and even when I was part of a bigger organization and with my team and looking at the CEOs and CMOs, it was so critical for those leaders to set that vision and create clarity on what we're trying to do, to your point. And the Blue Angels is such a great depiction of clarity and vision, so love that you hit that. And I just love how the Blue Angels creates clarity on actually what we're trying to do as a business.
What's step 2 though? Let's say you are successful. And I know you are. And believe me, clarity is not easy. Sometimes, answering the simple question, what do I want? And get it into one sentence, that's hard, right? But when let's say you as a leader or anybody who's watching this, we have the clarity. What's the issue though? What's the challenge that most leaders have and most organizations have if they have clarity?
To me, it's that teamwork and getting everyone working together to accomplish that same vision.
That's it. It's the commitment and buy-in to that vision. And it's it's what I call an ownership mentality. And this is a critical point. You want to own the outcome. Everyone on my team, everything I talk about, you got to own the outcome, not just your role. Of course, I expect you to do your role and job. And of course, I want to help. And that's where the team comes in. And we talk about things like vulnerability. We talk about things like humility. We talk about things like creating a safe environment with respect. You see, you have to have what we would refer to as EQ elements in with the cadence of execution. And when you can combine both of those, which is what we did on the Blue Angels. And I basically just reverse engineered it. I went, wait a minute, this worked. Why did it work? It took me to go to Stanford Business School and work with 1,500 organizations to figure this out, by the way, as you start to see a red thread and you start to see not only what's not working, which we talked about, but you start to see what works in different organizations. It could be healthcare. We work with Mayo. We work with all the great healthcare organizations. It could be in Silicon Valley with Google, Microsoft, Apple. It could be with manufacturing, Mercedes-Benz, P&G. It doesn't matter. These core things transfer. It could be a startup company. And by the way, what I've noticed in startups, because I'm a startup too, except we've been here 20 years, all right, is that initially the vision is clear. Entrepreneurs, leaders, we have a clear vision, right? And we're usually able to be passionate about that. And you can pivot quickly with trust. What's missing is the ability to scale it, the ability to have process and systems where you're not recreating the wheel every time. Now, here's the challenge. When you work with big companies, they have just the opposite problem, mostly. Yeah, they've got systems and processes probably too much. And what they're losing is that agility The ability to not only adapt to change, but to lead through change. And it's not because they don't want to. It's the sheer burden of this. And so what I'd like to talk about is, I call it the Diamond Performance Framework, but it's a framework that I remember in Stanford Business School, strategic management theory. They teach you vision, plan, execute, feedback loop. So everybody in this room knows that. Everybody we're talking to. What's the vision? Come up with a plan, execute on a plan. Now here's the weakest link, the feedback loop. Yep. Most organizations and people, we understand there's a problem there. IT gets it better than most, but is the weakness of that feedback loop. Now I take it to the next level, and I say it's just not about vision. Let's make sure we have clarity of vision. You mentioned that. It's about commitment and buy-in, and that's beliefs. How do you get people to believe and buy in? How do you get customers right here, stand on authority? How do you get customers to really believe in you, Rachel? I believe in you. You're awesome. Okay, you guys are doing a great job. That's the first link. You got to connect beliefs. And there's limiting and liberating beliefs. And a lot limiting beliefs are fear, and they're holding us back, and they're all out there in the organizations right now. So I try to paint that picture of what's possible. All right. Then you want to be prepared, but it's not about preparation. It's not about so much planning. It's about preparation and focus. We talk about focus. I can take you inside the Blue Angels and show you how we focus the mind. And it really gets kind of cool because it becomes more of an individual tool besides an organizational tool. The trust is, to me, the key to execution. If you want to increase execution, there's a lot of levers you can pull. Let's work on trust. And if you can increase trust with verbal and nonverbal contracts, these are agreements, the ones you and I have, which says no matter what, I'm going to make sure this works for you. I'm so glad to be on here. I'm going to do whatever it takes. These are contracts that with customers are amazing. But the fourth and final piece to this, and the absolute most important one, the one that's missing the most, is the ability to have a tool or mechanism to learn from. I call it learn, grow, give. And that's this glad to be here debrief, which I'm happy to unpack if you want, because what that does is it resets belief levels and you get a spiraling up process.
Let's unpack that debrief, since you're on a roll.
I know. I don't want to talk too much. I know you're leading this thing. All right.
No, I'm here to get the goodness out to share so we can educate.
Okay. So what I found, and I'm happy to share this because to me it is the essence, is if you just say the word debrief, people look at you and they get this glazed look in their eye like, yeah, but I don't have time. We have enough meetings. Come on, I'm going from one meeting to another. Why, and then they start to, so the first thing is I don't have enough time, right? And what the answer there is very simple, because I show them the power of not just a debrief, okay, but a glad to be here debrief, which does something different. It's a mechanism for chemistry. Don't we all want better chemistry in our teams? Don't we want better camaraderie? Okay, commitment. It's leadership. So it gives you and your individuals a container to really learn and grow. And I want to identify small things before they come big things. So when people say I don't have time, I say, you know what? You don't have enough. You don't understand the power of this because you don't have enough time not to do it, because you're gonna have to spend a lot more time when that problem becomes a big problem. Now, in my old work, it was killing somebody. Someone died. Well, you don't want that. And when that happens, what you do is you unpack and you find out there's a chain of events and we could have prevented this. It's always there, right? And so what we're trying to do is get that before it happens. And same thing in the medical field, and there's near misses and there's things that you want to learn. So that's in the extreme sense. But how about this? The debrief is even not about that. The debrief is about a mindset and a culture of continuous improvement. See, that's what I'm trying to get at. I don't care where we are in our journey. Maybe you are the Blue Angels, okay? Maybe you're Mercedes, whatever. I don't care. Maybe you're not. The point is I'm constantly improving. And that's what this system does. Now, we do it through 5 dynamics, and I just don't want to rip them off. I think you're a little bit familiar with these. What I've learned over time is that the concept is one thing, big deal. And there's tons of benefits to doing this. We talked about the bigger benefits, but there's actually a path to get there. And ask me a question, because I think I've been talking too much, and then I'll start to dive into the 5 dynamics, which every single one of us listening to this can implement.
Well, there's 5 dynamics of the debrief.
The glad to be here debrief, which is different.
Glad to be here debrief.
Yeah.
And I want to know what's the last step. Can you work our way back?
Oh, nice. Okay, we can go reverse. I normally don't do that. Way to challenge me. Okay, it's good. The last one is actually not just a step, and it's the ethos. And we've already we kind of mentioned it, but it's glad to be here. And we end our statements on these debriefs with glad to be here. Now, what does it really mean? It means I'm just reminding myself of why I do what I do. You know, all of us out there, I mean, we're so much stuck in the how that sometimes we forget the why. And it's a good reminder to be grateful for the opportunity. As I know, I'm super grateful just to be on your show right now. Okay. I was grateful to be selected for the Blue Angels. I mean, super grateful. And I'm grateful to work with the clients I get to work with, but I'm also grateful to wake up every morning. I live here in Sun Valley, and we just had a great July 4th, right? And I got my 2 Rhodesian Ridgebacks, and we go out for a walk behind my house. Here's the thing. Gratitude is one of our superpowers. And glad to be here. The 5th and final portion of these things pulls it all together. And it's an ethos. And before we leave, I'm not going to do it now. Remind me if you want me to share with you my glad to be here wake up, which is a simple process that helps reinforce gratitude. But 5th dynamic, most important, get glad to be here as part of your life and part of your organization.
Okay. So we're in the mindset, we're in the debrief. And I want to add to what you're saying too, is, you know, we are so focused on the how did we do, and that it is, and about the results.
Yeah.
So
the results matter. I don't want to say they don't.
But it's about the learning yourself.
Yes.
What did we learn along the way?
Yes.
And really thinking about those gains.
That's it. Not only how you learned, that's so critical. What can you replicate? So most of the debrief is focused on what's going well. How do we refine what we're already doing, the customer journey, right? And there's constant little refinements that can be made, but you're absolutely right. That's to change the focus from just the result that I want in that moment to what's the continuous improvement that can be replicated over and over again.
Got it. Okay, so since we're going to be coming to the end here, the debrief, the glad to be here mindset is the ethos for it. What are the 4 pieces of the debrief? Yeah,
so real quickly, I'll go from 1 through 4. The first is you need to create a safe environment. And what I mean by that is we all struggle with fear. I mean, let's just be real, okay? And so what we're trying to do is eradicate fear out of your own life, or even more importantly, an organization. So the way to do that is you got to create a safe environment. And I don't mean just a physically safe environment. I mean a psychologically safe environment. And you do it with one simple word. It's called respect. Okay. I mean, we want to create respect amongst every individual. I want them to feel like they can speak up. I want them to feel like they can say anything they want. This safe environment is number 1. Okay. And that's respect, and everyone gets to talk. Number 2 is you got to check your ego at the door. Okay. Because again, people have egos. I mean, I like to joke around. You think fighter pilots got egos? I mean, of course. But when you get to go through our trainings, you get to see, because it's not just me talking, we get to go into the debrief rooms, and you get to see how we debrief. And all of a sudden, people ask me all the time, holy crap, I didn't see any egos in that room. And I said, yeah, you know why? We had an ethos. You check your ego at the door. I want you to be good. I like people good around. It's about the we, not the I. And that's how you check egos. And by the way, it's also, if you're ever struggling with this, with somebody else, okay, connect back to the higher purpose. Mm-hmm. Once you connect back to a higher purpose, you can't have an ego. It doesn't fit. All right. All right. So that's that. And that's the humility and the vulnerability that you want to bring. And like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. If people are thinking, well, how do I do this? Well, number 1, start with yourself, and be that example, right? Now, the third one is this openness and honesty that I call lay it on the table. And we kind of referred to that in the past. There's a lot of withholds that are out there in business, especially if you don't feel safe. You're not going to, you're afraid for your job, or some people are just afraid to look bad. And I'm like, hey, I'm okay with making mistakes. I make them all the time. All right. I just want to learn from them. Right. So to me, the lay it on the table is let's be open and honest. Now, do you have that is a peel the onion. How open and honest are you with your partner? Let's just start there, okay? And then you can get to the organization. Now, the fourth one, as we wrap, is accountability. You know, I mean, don't we all want accountability? Well, of course, but here's what I think that the nuance is. And we're talking about nuances here in a lot of this. What we're really looking for is personal responsibility. Mm-hmm. And when you have personal responsibility, accountability becomes a given. And the way you get there with the fourth dynamic is own the outcome. I want to own it and fix it, which is what we talked about earlier. And then the magic comes together when you infuse it with glad to be here. Here's the beautiful part, Rachel. It's not hard. You know, I feel like I've been talking too much about philosophy and frameworks. You know, you just gotta. Every company's going through this. Every person's going through it. Wherever you are, great. We can get a little bit better, and it's actually fun. And that's why I'm wearing my shirt. Glad to be here.
I mean, you pointed out so many good things. I think some of the big pieces, right, for us to walk away is around this idea of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
And that mindset, having that personal mindset. You know, John, it's taken me a while, and honestly, being courageous to leave my corporate job and to be an entrepreneur, to be okay with imperfection, to be okay and say, I'm doing the best that I can, right? And that, starting with the within, is really that inside job is a lot of what I'm hearing you talk about, you know, and the vulnerability piece too. And that's hard. At a lot of companies, being vulnerable is not accepted. It's not normal. You know, right. Leaders aren't doing that. So I think we all get to do that. Because if we don't do that, it's hard to create, I think, the things that you're talking about, the results and the mindset within the team. So
yeah, I like to say, Rachel, you nailed it. I like to flip that mind of it's hard to be vulnerable to their strength and vulnerability.
Ooh, I love that.
And there is, right? And there is.
There's the tweak.
That's it.
That's the tweak. You see, John's just masterful at the words, and everything you do is ultimately about that gratitude, right? Every word, even just saying that, why does it have to be hard versus, you know, having strength, and just those little tweaks. And that's what you do all the time with your brand, John. And it's so powerful. It's why people want to hear you and talk to you and connect with you. And there's a lot that we can learn from you. So if you are not following John, it's your first time, you know, checking him out and hearing from him, please follow him. He is such an amazing person, what he's doing for the communities, the way he gives back. And as you could tell, he is pumped up. He's pumped up with good energy and vibes. And we so desire that, especially on social media. So follow him, connect with him. And I'm just so glad to be here with you today.
Rachel, I want to say thank you for you being who you are and your company, and really thank everybody. You're helping so many people. And to me, that's the essence of glad to be here, when we can look back and say, wow, we did something that helped another person. So with that, keep doing what you're doing. You guys are awesome. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. Thanks, Gucci. All right, everyone, we'll see you next month. Thank you so much for hanging with me and John. And I hope you have a great, great July.